Hey, what's up, Internet? It is Chris Krug. I'm here with Peter Bittner from The Upgrade and Shane Gibson from Sales Academy. How's it going, guys?
Hey, fantastic, Chris. I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Yeah, man. What's up, Peter?
Great to be here. Yeah, how's it going, everyone? Happy Friday. Super excited for, future of sales here with no one. Yeah, could have chosen a better person, frankly, than Shane. So super excited.
Peter and I have been running these AI upgrade workshops for the last year and a half or so, taking what we've learned out on the edge of AI kind of knowledge and exploration and bringing that to professionals in the creative industries and in journalism and PR. And then we partnered up with Shane recently, who is the ultimate AI enabled sales dude, to deliver AI upgrade for sales leaders. So yeah, Shane, tell us a little bit about the program we're running.
Well, I think maybe we should start with maybe how we connected or how we kind of kicked this off, at least from my perspective. So I've been, as you know, my first talk I did on AI and the future of sales, I don't think that was the exact title at that time, was done for Channel Next, which of course is also owned by the same group that owns eChannel News, which is I think the biggest channel tech news site in Canada.
Shout out to Julian. Hey, Julian.
Yeah, shout out to Julian Lee and his team. And so they gave me the opportunity to kind of trial this topic many years ago. And we had, a tepid response at that time. It was pretty early days. And then fast forward to when ChatGPT launches, and all of a sudden it's the most popular talk on the speaker circuit. And then I looked at and realized, I know a lot about AI, but I was missing pieces. And I was starting to talk to you, Chris, about some of the things that were missing. And then you convinced me to take the AI upgrade for creative professionals course as a sales dude. And
listen, Shane, I've known you since the dawn of the internet, and to say you're only a sales dude is to put you in a very small box. I mean, you are a content producer of the highest order, a media maker, an international online influencer. I've known you since like the blogging social media days. We were sitting ground zero at the dawn of that revolution. Flickr was in town. Stuart Butterfield was here. This is like pre-Slack existing, pre-Yahoo buying Flickr, and you got hot and heavy on blogging as a way to own SEO in your space and social media as a way to support that. And I watched you under my nose go from, just like Shane, the blogger sales guy, to Shane, the international sales leader over the last 25 years. So this is squarely your space, man.
Absolutely. And so with that said, though, we had a lot of fun in your course, and I was able to fill in the missing pieces that I was missing, not from a vision perspective, but often from a technical perspective. And so then halfway through showing you guys what I'd put together, that's when you and Peter said, hey, Shane, there's a whole course in what you've put together here that you need to share with sales leaders. And you kind of pushed me a little bit outside of my comfort zone with this one, a little bit kicking and screaming, actually. But I'm happy we've done it because we put together a really cool program that is really about like guerrilla tactics, frontline sales leadership stuff, not top down, not expensive platforms, right? So this is, for me, if it's not simple, I'm not going to do it. So this is like really for that audience of like people who want to get started tomorrow and don't want to wait for permission.
Well, when I started, re-engaging with you after that AI sales keynote that you gave a couple years ago, you really captivated my imagination with the way you're using Fathom, not just to record your calls, but to essentially build a knowledge base. A lot of us are using Otter, Fireflies, Fathom to record stuff. But usually for a lot of people, they either just are getting their dumb output summaries from the tool itself, which are kind of useless and people don't do much with it. But you've got a little bit of secret sauce and you've used that to build the data gold mine. So let's talk about your Fathom usage leading into some knowledge-based stuff.
Absolutely. So for those people listening who don't know what Fathom is, it's an AI-based note taker. I started using it in its like beta phase, connected with the founders and the original team, and it's grown to amazing levels since then. But even in the beginnings, it was very intelligent and light compared to the other tools. And it plugs into anything like, Google Call or Google Meet, Zoom, Teams, all the tools. So we plug it in and it takes notes for you. And I find it's one of the more accurate ones. And then there's some like what I would call like baked in tools. You can say this is a stand-up, or this is a client meeting, or this is a sales meeting, or I use one of these 3 broadly used sales processes. But the challenge with it is it'll take this great 45-minute conversation, and it kind of gives you the same level of notes and kind of strategic insights as it would give any of your competitors that use it. So you're kind of getting these generic insights that everybody else. It's like we all paid for the same coach, right? And so what I did is I took our methodologies around the art of asking questions, which is one part solution selling and really one part narrative therapy in a way when we were talking to clients. And we married this together. It's a very empathetic way of selling and focused on large accounts. So I've built manuals on it. I've done keynotes on this. I've got books written on it. And I took all of that and fed it into a, at that time I would call it a custom GPT. What are we calling them these days? An agent?
I think that actually we should call them assistants.
Yes.
I think like if you take a system prompt and then you take some knowledge and you tie them together, you get an assistant, and that assistant can help you do something like proposal writing. But then if you tie a few different assistants together, then you got an agent. Maybe if you're like, yo, read this RFP and then do this thing and then write the proposal and then email.
And you've got a process that's executed. So that's a good distinction. So, what do we call it? Sorry, I've like lost it already. So it's not an agent.
It's assistants.
It's an assistant. All right, perfect. So I don't know why a brain fart there, but anyways, so we've got my AI assistant I built, which has my entire knowledge base. So it becomes a coach, even for me. So what happens is then I feed this individual transcript in, and based upon my methodologies, it gets us a score of 10 in 8 different areas. From empathy to listening to the types of questions, to the order of questions, to digging deeper. And it spits out a report that says, here's what you need to do better. And here's questions you should have asked. And here's the money you left on the table. And so it's a really interesting tool. It's a custom way. And, someone could use mine, or what I've done was
you wrote an AI coach that analyzes your discovery calls and helps you be more awesome.
Yeah, that's essentially it. And the funny thing is, when I started using it 2 months ago, which is just around the time that we started working together, now I guess it's 3 months ago, my own self was scoring me through the assistant 7.5 out of 10 on average of my client calls, my discovery calls. And through taking the advice, me, who's been doing this for 20 plus years, has been able to move to an 8.5 out of 10, right?
Wow.
Which is a really interesting to show you that, you're creating this second brain, as you've called it, Chris, and this second brain, which is you, is coaching yourself to get better. And we all know what we should be doing, but then we don't do it, right? And this is kind of an interesting way to do this, is coaching yourself based upon best practices. So it's been pretty exciting for me, and I've shared it with some of my clients. And this is where the ROI starts to kick in, where sales leaders were spending 5 to 6 hours a week, either pouring through transcripts or listening to calls and then coaching salespeople. And now they can do the same thing in 5 minutes, but they're not using just their world perspective on selling. They're getting a kind of globally benchmark perspective on how to sell. And,
sure, it gets my wheels turning. I mean, anything that you do for yourself using transcriptions and assistance for, coaching, think about doing that at scale. Think about rolling that out for a regional sales team or a whole department or something like that.
And we just did this with a client where we did, close to 8 hours of interviews with their sales team and their sales leader. And we were doing a sales SWOT on the organization, and also assessing at what of the 5 levels of sales maturity that organization was at. And what was interesting is that we were able to take all the transcripts plus the sales maturity framework and our SWOT framework, feed it into our custom made assistant, Chris, there we go. And that assistant was able to help us develop a SWOT analysis and benchmarking and pull out the wisdom from each of the team members after a little more prompting. That was 80-90% of the way there. And then we went through and put our human fingerprint in on the end. And the client was just blown away with the report, the insights, the strategy. And again, it wasn't like I was just asking generic ChatGPT and it's going to give me the same answers based upon the.
No, I mean, I think that's like the nuanced thing here, is that a big part of our methodology is like getting these AIs to both like think and speak like you. And we have like a process for figuring out how to do that. We ingest, things that we've written in the past, blog posts, transcripts, interviews, podcasts, keynote speeches, anything we can get our hands on, really. And we distill that down into some writing guides and some worldview and perspectives documents, essentially helping everybody build this knowledge base and then start to build some kind of system prompts that they can use to make their own AI advisory board, or,
it's, this on a simple level, like one of the other micro assistants, I would say, like very niched, is writing personalized business emails in my voice and tone, language, pacing. And so I did this like the other night. I was tired. I didn't want to sit down and write this email to a new business partner, a client. So I picked up my phone and I just dictated like stream of consciousness to it on why it was so nice to meet them, what I thought we could do, all this kind of stuff. I cut and paste that into my email writer, and out it spits this beautifully written business email that sounds like it's for me. Cut and paste, and away we go. Because sometimes I know we all sit in front of that blank page too, and that's half the waste of time, is getting the creative juices rolling. But now you can, for me, I'm a talker, if you haven't noticed, and I'll be able to talk into my phone and then drop that into my custom email writer that's not like some other person on the internet says, this is how you write an email. It's been trained on how I like to write emails to clients. And then it sounds like me. So it's,
I love that workflow, and it's very powerful. I've done the same thing. I've set up in different assistants and agents, and then I can just record my voice directly into them and get back outputs, and I've automated some of that stuff. Last time Peter and I ran this course, Peter, talk about that internal sales workflow that
was very cool.
Yeah, we had a classmate who was also from sales who was able to automate almost his entire inbox for inbound as well as kind of follow up. And he was managing a number of different brands and product portfolios. And he was able to do the same thing that Shane was saying about, building essentially a second brain, so that he would have automated, intelligent routing system to identify, exactly which brand sort of knowledge base to pull all of this information from, run it through, again, his like personal brand voice guidelines, right? Pop that out into a draft into his Gmail, automatically ready to just have that last mile of human review, really last few seconds, and send it off, right? And so he was automating an insane amount of his job, but at a level, that was,
and this was like an inside sales manager. This was not an AI guy, but he built a tool that looked at the inbox, understood what was in there, understood the email, then would look at the knowledge base for an answer, then it would write the answer, then it would draft the email, then it would send him a message on Slack, yo, there's a draft in your email for you to review and send out. And it was pushing out 20 replies to inbound emails a day.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And that's, it's a great example of, and I have a lot of respect for, met some really cool founders of tech, AI, sales tech specific AI tools.
Yeah.
I've done some, but for everyone that I meet is really cool and has really put some thought in. There's like another 8 to 9 out there out of 10 where it's been built by someone with not a true sales lens. And so they're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist, or that they're missing the real nuance that actually salespeople are looking for. And what I like about what this guy in the last class, the last cohort did, was it was a salesperson saying, here is my process specifically, and what parts are choke points or opportunities for automation, which is going to make my life actually better and make me more effective at engaging the right people. Yeah. And so this is actually a real shift, is that we're all out there looking for a silver bullet, the next outbound tool that's smarter than me, instead of going, what's the great process I use? And what are some accessible tools I can use to make my life better, easier, more effective? And so I think that's true. I love grassroots guerrilla use of tools. Back in the day for me, my big thing with social media was I would be yelling at marketing departments, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to your whole company. Empower your sales team and your HR team and your frontline service people to talk to the world on these platforms, because democratization of voice is really a powerful tool for organizations. And I think that this whole thing is that allowing people to be creative, curious, and actually use these tools to fit their personality style and their strengths. That's where it's at. If you can empower your team to become assistant and agent builders with some guidelines, I think it's a really powerful solution and formula for not just sales organizations, like any company. right? I think that's the key.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the tools are very low hanging fruit. They take very little technical capabilities or anything like that. It's really about understanding your workflow and your process, having that mindset to know where to bring a tool to bear, to kind of like amplify your efforts and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it really is more about like having a unique sales voice and methodology and perspective and an understanding of your workflow and your process, more than about being like a super uber nerd of AI or a machine learning, engineer or something like that. And not required. That's part of the whole innovation, is that this powerful stuff's available to, guys like you and I.
Totally. 100%. I mean, that was my frustration point. Go ahead. Sorry, Peter.
I was going to say, I just want to acknowledge and thank those commenting right now on YouTube, Roger, as well as in LinkedIn there, Minto, Matt as well watching. Hey, fantastic to see you here, Matt. Lots of familiar names and faces there. So we're glad you're here with us. Feel free to let us know how you're experimenting with AI and potentially your sales processes. We're stoked to continue the conversation. If you have questions, it's one of the beauties of doing these live, right? Let us know too, and we're happy to unpack some stuff. But totally agree with your comment there, Minto, as well. I don't know if you want to address
Minto. I often joke is the second best salesperson I've ever met, and but he is, and the first one, of course, goes to my father, so he's okay with that. But Minto, he's got a company called Social Print, and they actually have a treeless paper that they market and sell around the world. He's an innovator in that business. But one of the things Minto said to me, which was really interesting about managing sales organizations, is most people are automating the wrong things. So they're doing a worst practice faster and in front of more people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really great way to summarize how some of these AI tools are misused if we don't start with best practices, processes, sales playbooks first,
right,
and then accelerate those processes, right? And I think that's a tongue-in-cheek, thing that he said, but Minto, it's absolutely true. I see a lot of people with inefficiencies just scaling them instead of thinking about how they can improve them, right?
Yeah. I want to take it in a little bit of a different direction, because there's this other AI thing that you do that I think is pretty cool. So you've unlocked the whole record yourself on video, long form at home, or giving a keynote, and then drop it into one of these AI tools that turns it into a bunch of TikTok clips and reels and breaks it down into topical 60-second things. It also allows you to edit with text, which is pretty cool. So like, none of us are audio editors, but using these AI tools, we can take a 1 hour long form keynote, drop it into this tool where it finds all the key themes like discovery. Like, here's 3 60-second TikTok videos on just discovery. 100%. And then the text pops up of what's in the video. And as you change the text, it makes seamless edits to the audio video real time. And so I've seen you learn to master this, and talk a little bit about how you're using that and what you're seeing.
Yeah. So this was one of the challenges I had as a business owner, right? There's really Claudia Mason, who's our sales playbook genius, and I like to call her our sales therapist. She does great work with our sales leaders and salespeople, coaching them. And then we've got Lynn, who heads up our e-learning side of our business. But then me, I'm wearing the Shane the speaker hat, trainer hat, creator of the books, and the marketing hat. And so, I was looking at, how do I amplify who I am? So I used to be watching videos of myself. And my partner, she used to say, your favorite thing to watch is you. And I'd be watching myself, for an hour and a half, and going in and figuring out, like, from minute 127 to 155, that's a good clip. And I'd be marking it, and then I'd send it off to somebody outsourced who'd clip them up and edit it for me. And I was, it would take, like, the whole process just to get, 12 clips would take me, a week to get them back. And it would cost me, $400 or $500. And all of a sudden, I came across this tool, which used to be called video.ai. It's now called QSO.ai, QUSO.ai. I can rant in front of I don't even have to be a podcast. I can just talk to the video for an hour and a half on what I think about the weather and sales in the world. And then I can feed that up into that tool, and it'll take and find 12 to 16 of the most viral clips for me and caption them. And then I can go in and edit them a bit. And you can just hit the send button. But I find if you put the human in the middle a little bit, I took the transcripts out, put it through my custom writer so it sounds like me, pop them back in as a LinkedIn post, TikTok, all those things. So I personalize it, right? So it doesn't look, There's no weird emoticons and rocket ships, my least favorite emoticon, put in there that looks like it's AI written. But what happens now is off of a 1 hour podcast or 30-minute podcast, I get 15 pieces of content, then go across 4 different channels. So just video content is 60 pieces of content out there promoting my brand on the internet. Then I write 2 to 3 blog posts and about 6 to 8 LinkedIn posts based upon the same transcript in my own voice, tweaked, that also go out into those platforms. And then
you load it all up into a social media calendar, and you've essentially got a month's worth of content from that 1 hour podcast or keynote.
A month, usually it's a month and a half, 2 months almost. You get 80 pieces of content, and that goes out. And for me, that would have taken me and that person previously manually, and all the editing and stuff would have taken me. I just wouldn't have done that much posting. Yeah, and even if I outsourced it to somebody, it still cost a lot. So now at the corner of my desk, devoting about 5 hours of time, realistically, I can get 30 or 40 hours of marketing out of it. And what's precipitated out of that for me is a strong voice on channels like LinkedIn, where I'm having inbound conversations with my ideal clients. I'm having interactions. People know what I'm up to, even if they don't comment. I bump into them at a business event. They're like, I've been loving your stuff on this topic. And
incredible. That is a very interesting phenomenon, that there's a high absorption rate even amongst people who don't seem to qualify for engagement statistics. Because you can't go to one of our events locally with people out without knowing everything that you're up to or whatever, and you're putting it out there, but it's not as it's a very interesting way to stay right in people's headspace.
Well, and back in the day when Steve Jagger and I, way at the beginning of time for social media marketing, we wrote a book called Sociable for sales professionals and entrepreneurs. And we called it reverse drip marketing. So people used to do drip marketing. I get your email and I would drip, and I would phone you, and I would send, and I would do whatever else to push information at you. Where today, I think most buyers, most B2B buyers, they want to actually be in charge of the purchase themselves and self-educate. And at the final mile, reach out to a salesperson and have a conversation just to make sure everything is on track. And that's how people buy today. And so that reverse drip marketing is, I'm going to put my content out on multiple channels as a sales professional, even, sharing what I'm doing at work and what we do in my expertise. And then my channel gets to choose how they consume the information they need to learn about me in their own time. And so it's not about pushing it at them. It's actually about making sure it's where they're looking for it. And then over time, you're telling a story with your content. Well, I could not afford to do that and run my business manually. I'd have 1/5 of the online social footprint without AI. Yeah. And so this is something that, and people go, well, I don't want my salespeople to be in charge of the brand voice. They're going to run amok and create all this disaster. Well, this is why you want to help them build their own custom assistants that are in the brand voice, that are already approved, so they can feed their rant in here and even drop an F-bomb. It doesn't matter, because when they put the text into your GPT, it'll rewrite it and it'll sound real corporate and nice and in their own voice, and they can put it on LinkedIn. And so there's some really cool tools organizations can spin up to encourage their people and enable them to actually create content. And the whole, and we can talk about content. What am I really? I'm creating value for my audience. So I'm giving before I get. And I think that's the thing, is the more value, the more it's unique value in my voice, it'll resonate better than generic content people are pulling from these tools, right?
So you're using AI to transcribe all your calls and meetings, and you're using that to build a knowledge base. You're also using AI to write some follow-up emails and stuff. You're using AI as a coach to do discovery training on your own self.
Yes.
You're using AI to slice and dice videos from long form into trickle reverse drip content for your channels. That's like at least 5 or 6 different use cases. Is there any other big?
Well, Claudia, who works with me, built an unauthorized Shane. I didn't tell her she could, but she did. And she took all our sales calls that we've done together, like our coaching calls and decision-making calls, where she said, what should I do with this client? And what should I do with that client? And she took all those transcripts and fed them into an assistant. And the assistant is called, what would Shane do? And it's great, because, if you would have asked that question 12 years ago, when, it might have been a bad decision, but I've grown up a lot since then. And so she's able to feed a client transcript in, and Shane recently, it popped out, hey, Claudia, this is probably not truly an A category client. It's more like a C, and you're probably trying too hard to close the deal when they're just not qualified. And
Wow.
she was like, wow, that was amazing. And so, creating a virtual sales leader based upon all your coaching calls with that sales leader, it flips the script. Usually it's like, can I analyze all my team's calls? But Claudia's like, can I take what Shane has shared and the way he thinks and put it in a tool and ask it, what would Shane do, right? So I think that's a really, interesting innovation. And we've got permission to experiment here as well. So, it was pretty funny when she sent me the text and I saw the screen capture. What would Shane do?
So many AIs are just such yes man, sycophantic, trying to please you and stuff, that I've definitely found that the critical voice, if you can handle it, is one of the most useful voices of AI.
So I think you lobbed me a softball here. I feel like you've lobbed me a softball. So in my discovery coach, I added an unofficial David Goggins mode. So if anybody follows David Goggins, it's basically a Navy SEAL drill sergeant. So you can get your feedback on your discovery calls from Shane Gibson, who tends to be empathetic and very West Coastish in my way I give people feedback. Or you can go David Goggins, where he'll say, hey, that call was crap. You left money on the table. The client led you. You didn't lead them. Here's 5 things you need to do next time to improve. But it's actually funny because when I run mine through it, I actually like that better. I need a bit of a wake-up call. I don't need it to be I would agree. The AI assistants that are actually able to give you the straight goods. And it's funny because you don't really take it personally. If you said that to me, Chris, I might be upset.
That's the thing, right? Is that it's not trying to be mean, that it's actually just gonna like call your attention to something. And so it's way easier to hear from a bot than a human. Yeah. Hey, listen, Shane, we got Fernanda on the chat here, and they are asking about creating custom GPTs with all ICP info, interviewing them, training for the next sales call, or creating focus groups with a couple to discuss ideas and campaigns.
Yeah.
Cool idea.
I mean, that's all. And that's actually, that's almost, to me, that sounds like an agent. Like I've got an assistant that helps you build a value proposition. I've got an assistant that helps you build your ICP. And I got an assistant that is built for objection handling. And then, one for discovery calls. And then, I've got another one that calls to perplexity and pulls out client information in depth, which is an AI-based search engine. But if you tie all those together in a tool like the platform that Peter uses, which is, what's the name of that tool? The platform
Mind Studio.
Mind Studio, yeah.
Mind Studio, a real drag and drop connector of all of these things to build an agent. Then it could run that whole process for you, probably off an email address and a company name. It could build a persona for you that you could then actually mock interview or mock negotiate with. And so, and they're never that smart when they start, but it doesn't take long to train the individual agents with a little curiosity and creativity. For me, I haven't really put much more time in the way that I just stopped binging Netflix shows. I limit it a bit during the week. I still do it on the weekend, but during the week I limit it. And instead of binging Netflix, I argue with ChatGPT until it does what I.
That sounds great for your mental health. I'm really happy.
Hey, that's what the martial arts is for: is blow off a little steam. After I lose a fight with ChatGPT.
Our friend Alexander Samuel put a post up overnight about that. It was something like, it's easy to be an asshole, but why be assholes to people when we can be assholes to ChatGPT? If you're going to have an anger management tirade, why not fire up your custom assistant chatbot and yell at that shit instead? And I thought that was a pretty funny perspective, No,
absolutely. Although I think you've probably seen this press because it hit the top of the newswire that the founder of ChatGPT, the president, talked about the fact that they spend millions of dollars a month. They've calculated based upon people gratuitously saying please and thank you, that if we just stopped doing that with ChatGPT, that they'd actually save a lot of money and a lot of data use.
That story is so funny because the reason why people do that is GPT 4.0 being polite to the AI was literally in the open AI prompting guidelines. They said you would get better results if you offered to tip it or said please and thank you. Well, now 4.1's out. And the old guide is garbage. Everything you know about prompting is gone. The new guide is out. And now Sam's like, yo, you're costing us millions of bucks a month by being polite to the AIs.
I find if I berate it and told it it's a failure, it actually, I'm sorry, I'll listen to your instructions better. And then it writes better content. So I don't know. Like, I have to be really blunt. Like, I am underwhelmed by this.
I find that being
proposal.
mean to it amplifies that sycophantic tendency where it's going to do anything it can to say yes, even if it's not that accurate.
So
all right, yeah. So there's a give and take there, but it's interesting to see.
Will you guys walk us through the course and help us wrap our heads around what it is you're offering exactly?
Absolutely.
Totally.
Peter, do you want to pull up the outline? Do you want me to do that?
I got it here. Yeah. So let's hop on over. Happy to screen share. It's a 6-week course. It starts on May 15th. We also have, a really amazing cohort that's coming together. It's capstone based. We do that for most of our courses so that everyone who joins leaves with a very tangible workflow enhancement or improvement, right? We want you to get out, ideally, your own type of bot or automated workflow, or multiple of them. That's often, the output, right? That's going to allow you to really, have this program more than pay for itself within a matter of likely, days, right? Buying your time back, right? Get back more than 10 hours per week. We've had sales teams, operations teams come through to some of our other trainings, and they've left saying, our entire division is now freed up 30 to 40% of our time on admin tasks to really focus more on building relationships, doing some of that strategic high level, sort of thinking about running different campaigns and promotions and, getting out of the day-to-day hand-to-hand combat type situation. That's really what this course is about. And if we'll drop the link here in the comments in a minute. You can check it out with the QR code on screen here above me. But we have on our website here, as I'm showing on screen, every single week spelled out what we're going to be covering here, right? And it's all parts of the sales funnel, right? We start with foundations.
See anything on screen yet there, Peter?
It's all good. I dropped the link in the chat.
Oh, okay, in the chat. Okay, cool. So maybe it's just my view. My apologies.
No, all good.
Can I interrupt you for a question from Minto? I want to, because he's been
Totally.
just at this. I just want to quickly, because this kind of answers, it also leads into what we're talking about. He says, hey, Shane, can you comment on the concept that AI may be able to provide ideas and also increase language capacity on subject matters? However, that is likely to only provide veneer level of client attention. So I would kind of disagree and agree with this to some level. I think that you can insight on the client's industry. For instance, if you dig deep into a tool like Perplexity and understand how to use their research mode, and using AI to do sentiment analysis through platforms like Bombara, and pull all this data together, you'll have an incredible amount of insight on a company and their industry. What you won't have is context. So context is what that very human sit down where you're doing a discovery meeting and pulling in deep motivations and drivers and insights that aren't found on the internet, that are about real-time issues, human issues, strategies that have not been spoken or written, future-focused stuff. So yeah, you have to be absolutely curious in the sales process. With that said, most salespeople go in with knowledge light. They know enough to sell their product, know the company name and kind of the industry and maybe a couple things and read an annual report. But if you use some of these deep AI tools to help you prepare, even the types of questions you should ask based upon their stage of business growth, what's happening in the marketplace, I think it'd make you smarter going into the meeting. And then what you're looking for is context, which is their own individual buying motivators, values, and insights. So the answer is not I'd say this or that, it's both.
Yeah, I mean, like somebody with insatiable curiosity is going to be a power user of AI. Like you couple insatiable curiosity with infinite possibility and watch the monster you create in a good way. They're going to be unstoppable.
Yeah, absolutely. And so hopefully now that you guys can see my screen here, just want to give a very high level of kind of the flow of these 6 sessions, right? And starts with foundations, and Shane's, the best person to explain the exponential selling framework that really kind of underpins a lot of the curriculum here. Do you mind just unpacking that a little bit, Shane? That's your
absolutely
baby.
It's so for me, we talked about this before, and it was, and I quoted Minto, is that what are we actually accelerating, augmenting, and scaling? And it has to be a framework or best practices linked together from a sales perspective. So for me, my exponential selling methodology is based upon our business-to-business sales specialist program. and it is best practices in selling in business to business environment at each stage of the sales process. And really what it's about is, we're not going to go deep into that, but we are going to talk about the foundations of a great sales process, and how great sales process and methodology married with AI is what creates that exponential growth. AI alone, we're just going to speed up our inefficiencies, in my opinion. But when we combine those, that's where we really accelerate. So the first module is on the foundations of AI, understanding it, what it truly is, and the power of it, and then the foundations of sales best practices coupled with AI. So that's the first module in the program.
Yep, exactly. And then we move from there into, how to really focus on, really getting the most out of your discovery calls, right? And building custom coaching automations to continuously improve. And, you're a huge Fathom guy, Shane, right? We've talked a little bit about these AI note takers, but regardless of what people are using, there's a lot of best practices that just leveraging some of those transcripts for all different parts of the funnel and for your personal flows can just lead to some amazing things, right? To get, freed up time to focus on building relationships, that's what it's all coming down to for me, and why I use a lot of these tools too daily, right?
This is what this using AI powered discovery calls. It isn't about automation. It is about making your human aspect of selling better, deeper, more authentic, more empathetic, more powerful, better context. So sometimes we think about like turning ourselves into a robot. This module is about making us better humans. And I think that's
the goal. That's the goal.
Totally. Yeah. I'm thinking of that dinner that we had last week, Shane. We had a prospect in town and we had dinner with them, and we talked for like 90 minutes about some of our biggest and best ideas. And I was recording the whole thing. And by the time Shane got home from martial arts class, I had a blog post on the internet with the evergreen thought leadership that me and Shane had been sharing with this client, but like in a kind of, generalized way, where I was doing, not knowledge dropping. And I had done a bunch of diagrams based on that transcript and stuff. It's incredible.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant. And that's part of the tool that you built for helping conference organizers actually pull all their content out and kind of do what I do on a large scale, where you're atomizing all the knowledge and getting it all over the internet almost instantly, right?
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun building that tool.
Chris runs these phenomenal meetups in Vancouver, by the way, for those watching, that are all about exploring sort of the frontier of AI together. And they're amazing. They really are. Phenomenal community there. And so to get back a little bit to some of, the rest of the curriculum, it really covers the scope of what we've been discussing in the first part of this conversation, right? Content multiplication. I love that framing, right? Being able to get more with less, right? And make it feel authentic, make it be representative of your voice, of your brand, and allow you to, be scrappy. These are sort of guerrilla based, personalized tools that we're really here to help you build, right? And
section 5 there is what Fernanda was talking about: persona based selling, CRM, segmentation. It's all about building our ICPs, building our personas, understanding how to customize our approach for each client, each market, leveraging that content and using it in all kinds of different ways, whether it's sparring with a virtual client, so to speak, or through an assistant, or it's helping your team deeply understand your ideal clients so they can be better at communicating with them and serving them, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then session 6 is really the grand finale, right? That's where everyone gets a little bit of show and tell time to put together, some of their learnings from across the course, from, the class sessions, from meeting with us, and really, showing off some of these tools that they've built just for them, their teams, there's organizations. And there's some amazing peer-to-peer learning that happens every single cohort we do, right? And it's a blast. It really is. The last class is super fun, and you get, your mind blown every single time, because everyone becomes, and this is the beauty of AI in general, right? Sort of the master of their specific type of workflow process enhancement, right? With AI, share that out. The ideas start flowing. It's phenomenal. So We really hope you'll come join us, right? We also have the schedule here on our website, the investment there. We also have a promotion though. Let me pop onto screen here in the upper right hand corner, our 30% off discount code. We'd love to have you come visit us. We also have special discounts for educators, for students, for freelancers, for those in between jobs, right? Message us. We'd love to make sure that you have a way to come and join us and join the cohort, and be as accessible as possible for you. So anyway, that's kind of, the details of the shape of the curriculum. Chris and I have run this same exact program essentially for different types of domains many times, and it is phenomenal. We just wrapped up a cohort recently of a PR one. We've worked with a lot of folks from sales already through some of our other courses, and can't wait to dig in here and just go to town with this specific, use case. Very, very like tailored approach to sales leaders.
Yeah, you'll learn a lot. You'll build some cool tools. You'll get in touch with a community of other people that are learning about AI for sales and going down this road together. And, it's pretty transformational for a lot of people.
Yep.
I think the big thing for us with the program is, and I think you've already picked this up, is it's a conversational program. I think sales professionals and sales leaders don't want a one-way dialogue, particularly with something like this. So, we're going to share some insights. We're going to share some tools. We'll probably share a case study, and then we're going to get to work together like live. And then you can ask questions and share your insights with each other. And as you're going through this program, you're actually doing a little bit at a time, so that you're not left just to yourself to figure this all out after a 2-hour data dump. It's actually about the conversation. And what's interesting is, when I did the AI for Creative Professional session, what evolves out of it very quickly is this really tight community of people who've taken the program together. And what evolved out of it is we all had applications built before we even got to the capstone. The capstone was a formality. It was like, here's what I built during the course, and so I think it's something that, for busy sales leaders and sales professionals, you're like, oh man, I take this 2-hour course, but then I have to spend 10 hours a week trying to figure out the internet. And it's not that way. Like, you can get curious if you want, but you're going to do it in the program as well. So I think, for me, I love learning that way, right? To do stuff, to listen about it, but I like to listen and do at the same time. So if that's you, I think it's a pretty solid program.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Shane. I'm really excited to run this program together. It's been so cool watching you just completely empower yourself with all of this and essentially become as powerful as 5 Shanes before,
Dangerous. Use my forces for good, though, of course. Yes. So absolutely. Yeah. Hey, it's been awesome. So again, at Shane Gibson on almost everything, wherever you're at. Instagram, Shane Gibson Live on TikTok, and Instagram and YouTube and all those places. So wherever you're curious, have a question, reach out. Peter, I should add this. If you still are wondering if this course is for me, Peter is happy to book a one-on-one informational call with you, answer any questions you have and whatnot. You may even be able to get to meet his daughter, depending upon the call.
He likes to make guest appearances.
She's the cutest sales assistant you'll ever meet. And so please reach out to us. We'd be really excited to have a conversation about this with you.
Yeah, I'll drop that link in the comments as well on all of these channels here. And thanks for tuning in and joining us live, whether you're watching the recording. Don't be a stranger. Please drop us a note, drop us a comment, and let us know you watched here. And one of the ways in which you're exploring or curious about AI in your sales processes and organizations. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to just connect regardless, because we're totally nerding out about this stuff, and love to compare notes.
Yeah. And, I guess I'd add the last cherry on top there is like, this is not the only way that we deliver this curriculum. So Shane's out giving keynotes about AI enabled sales leadership. We've been doing corporate trainings as well, where we go inside your organization and deliver this for 75 salespeople and stuff. So if you're into what we're talking about, reach out, let's get in touch, and we'll find a way to connect you with exactly the right type of AI upgrade that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Right on.
Peace out.
Over and out from Vancouver.
Over and out.